My name is Andrew Twyble. I wrote and directed the short film Compression. Um, Compression is kind of an experimental narrative. There is a plot, but it's really kind of more about communicating a mood and a tone. On the surface, it's about a group of young people who are living in this a world where they're sort of trapped in this endless kind of cycle of filmed performances. Sure, I mean, it's really hard for me to sort of separate like something that I've worked on from the period in which it was produced. I haven't watched it since it was finished, like last winter, well before all of this. But I guess I mean I can understand why it might seem appropriate for the kind of mindset that I think a lot of people have and have had over the last few months. We were talking about just coming back to campus for the first time, and I think if you would have told me in March that at the end of August, like again, we would be teaching remotely, and I would be isolating still in August. Yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of a demoralizing feeling. But I don't, those feelings aren't specific to just this time, I think, for a lot of people. This project was born out of just like wanting to communicate a vibe and a feeling, and like we talked about, that sense of anxiety, dread, paranoia, that I know that I've been feeling in recent years. And it seemed like conversations I had with students, a lot of them seem to be feeling the same. So we just kind of decided to make something that tried to like expel some of that feeling. And you know I keep wanting to say, like, unfortunately, like it's cool if people if people like it, and connect to it. But would be great if maybe those sorts of feelings weren't as common as they are. Performance angle in the film um, sort of came out of conversations that I had with my students. I'm a film professor. Um, it's just this sense among young people of just, always having to be on, to perform, to meet these benchmarks, to just constantly like have to climb and climb and climb, improve yourself. And so that was part of it. The other more like literal part is work with a lot of young actors, and I've always found like the audition process that they are constantly having to go through just sounds horrifying to me, and they talk about it in horrifying terms. So it seemed like something that they would connect with as well. I knew that the story was going to focus on a sort of like generational divide. The entire cast are 20-somethings college students, except for one of the characters is sort of a representative of this kind of anonymous entity that's forcing the young people to go through this process every day. So I knew I wanted to have that generational angle. I knew it was going to feature a lot of young people, and I sort of thought about like what type of material they would connect to, because I really wanted this to be something that everybody felt like a personal connection to. Small cast, small crew. And so on one level, it's like a pretty literal sort of visualization of these, young performers having to go through that process and just constantly prove themselves. The casting process, a handful of the actors I'd worked with before, David, who plays, the representative of this, like, it's the state, it's a company, it's some combination of those two things. Uh, we, we we sort of talked about it in terms of he was, you know, a contractor of some kind, which seemed like generic enough to encompass all of that. Um, I'd worked with him before. Um, the It was all of the young actors, a couple of them I'd worked with before, and basically we shot this just over a weekend in the summer. Cassandra, who plays our heroine, I guess, the sort of the last person standing at the end. Basically, I just kind of asked her if she had any friends or classmates that were around and looking for something to do over the summer. Didn't have a traditional casting process. It was just basically, you know, she sort of referred a few other young actors to me, and we sat down and we talked about, you know, like, what are some things you would like to do that you haven't had a chance to do? What type of character would you be interested in playing? And then just sort of like tailored what each of them were going to do to them. Like one of our actors, Courtney, who sings in the film, that just came out of a conversation that I had with her about just, you know, her interests and types of performing she wanted to do. So just it was a very loose process, and it was basically just took all comers. Anybody that was around that was interested, we found a role for them. Very small crew. I think, you know, maybe like 5 or 6 of us at the absolute most. Um, I think most of us had worked together in some capacity before. So I tried really hard to hire a crew that that I thought would gel and would kind of bounce off each other well, and they did, I think. It was, you know, some former students and some alums of the production program where I teach, but everybody's still kind of in the area. And no, I mean, this was just, it was a chance to try stuff. Um, this was, you know, I just, everybody had like a little hole in their schedule. Um, you know, the idea was just to, you know, to make something without pressure of where it's going to go. Is anyone ever actually going to see it? If nothing else, you'll have some material for your reel, and you know, get a little bit of money for just a couple, a short. It was like a weekend shoot. So no pressure. We'll see what happens. I don't really know what this thing is. We're gonna have to figure it out as we're making it, and as we're putting it together. But everybody had really great ideas, and we tried to accommodate as many of them as we could. I think one thing that I learned working on this project is that it's really important to every so often just change up your process. And you know, this was so for example, I typically like to rehearse a lot. And this was a project where we didn't do that. We shot the rehearsal essentially. Which at first I was a little bit nervous about, but you know, I wanted to be outside of my comfort zone a little bit. So looking for ways to just to approach your work from a different perspective with a little bit different process can really lead to some interesting results, even if they're not what you thought you were going to get. And I think that's important. It's easy it's, you know, when you do this enough, it's easy to sort of fall into like the same kind of pattern, the same routine. But you know, that can have a negative impact on your work. And I think it's important to keep the process fresh for you and your crew and your cast. You know, to be open, to be flexible, to be willing to try new things. I think that was one of the biggest things I learned. The other thing that I learned Again, because you know, we had no sort of goals for where this film was going to go, if anybody would ever see it. Um, but sometimes what I learned is that you never know what people are going to connect to, and you never know, something like very specific or very idiosyncratic can still have like a really wide appeal. You know, I try to make a short about every year, and I think, and this is not the type of thing that I typically make, but people that have seen it have responded to it really positively, and I didn't expect it. So I guess I learned you can't predict what people are going to connect to. You can't predict what people are going to respond to, and that's a nice lesson to learn. Now kind of switching gears to trying to think about, well, what does production look like under these circumstances, and that affects what your project is going to look like, and that affects what your script is going to look like. So sort of going back to the drawing board, and just always keeping in mind, like, okay, can I do this with 2 people on set? Can I do this? Like, how small can the crew be? How, so instead of having the story about like 5 characters, now it's about, can it be about 2 characters? What the project is you know, it'll be I'm shooting for like the 10-minute range, again, kind of a experimental narrative that deals with issues of mental health and anxiety, and some of those same kind of feelings, but in a less I don't know, a less dystopian kind of feel to it, a little, something a little more grounded. Hopefully that's the idea, but again, you never know.